Hey guys, welcome back to another YouTube video. Now in today's video, guys, I'm going to be doing a full review on the new horror comedy Lisa Frankenstein. Now, it took me a little bit to do this because I was deciding whether or not I needed to do a full review on this. So this is likely going to be a bit of a quicker review. I don't have a whole lot of bad things to say about this movie necessarily, but I felt that there was enough positives to go over, and this movie was also very intriguing to me when I saw the trailer for it, and so I just wanted to talk a little bit, go in a little bit more depth than I did in my initial reaction, which was obviously less than a minute long. So other than that, before we get on to the review, make sure you stay tuned. This week we have Madam Web coming out, which, however that goes, I'm going to be doing some kind of review on it, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And then we have a few movies left for the month to check out, possibly the Bob Marley movie, and then maybe something else, if anything else pops up. But other than that, as always, I'm open to suggestions, so let me know in the comment section down below if you have any ideas for content. Otherwise, we're recording this on Super Bowl Sunday, so we'll see what the results are. Obviously, I'm not a fan of either of the teams, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Anyway, unrelated, let's get on to this review. So Lisa Frankenstein, like I said, very, very intriguing movie when I saw the trailer for it. There was, I believe I saw at least one review before I watched this movie, and I heard that the director was Robin Williams' daughter. So that was an interesting little thing about it. I'm not super familiar with the cast here other than Catherine Newton. She's obviously played in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania recently, but what I remember her for is her in one of the Paranormal Activity sequels. I believe it was Paranormal Activity 4, and so it's just crazy to see how far she has come along from there. Obviously, Paranormal Activity 4, not generally liked, but now she's really got a successful acting career going, I feel like, and so yeah, it's really good to see her in here. So that's about as much as I knew about this movie going into it. Very, very similar to kind of my knowledge of Argyle going into it. Didn't really know a whole lot. Just saw the trailer. There's a lot of really good movies, or a lot of really good trailers for movies this year that have really been hooking me on to these. And Lisa Frankenstein was definitely one of them. It looked like a very interesting, eccentric movie to check out. And overall, what I would say is I had a really fun time with this movie. I found it to be very, very entertaining, very zany, very kooky. So if you like those kind of weird, eccentric movies, this is definitely going to be one for you, especially if you're into horror and whatnot. Now, this movie is not very spooky in any way, but it does have some horror elements to it for sure that I was not expecting. Starting out with the first positive, I guess, so that we don't have to backtrack to it, there was a lot more gore and in this movie than I expected. Now, there's not really any on-screen gore in this movie. It's a lot of implied stuff, obviously, because it's PG-13. And so there's, a lot of implied, gore and, stuff like that where they're chopping people's body parts off and whatnot, and it gets really, really brutal. Like I said, I looked at the rating for this movie. I was like, okay, it's PG-13, it's probably gonna be pretty mild, but no, they really, really pushed that rating for this movie, and I liked it. So despite it being a PG-13 movie, did not hold it back at all. In fact, they were just right at the line of getting that rated R rating, and there's also just a lot of raunchy and dark humor in here that was also really pushing that PG-13 rating, which I really, really enjoyed. I like the chemistry between our two main leads, Catherine Newton and forget what the other the guy's name is. There's this one dude who is kind of a bit of an interest for her, who's just this regular guy, and then of course you have the zombie that she brings back to life and eventually becomes her real love interest. So you got these two main boy actors. Now, one of them actually isn't really in the movie at all, so I don't know why I mentioned him in the first place, but the other guy, the zombie, the undead one, I can't remember. I can't think of the actor's name off the top of head from the future. I feel stupid now because the zombie boyfriend that I couldn't remember his name for whatever reason, Cole Sprouse, is Cody from The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. So now I feel stupid, but I just wanted to put this in here because I think he deserves name recognition, but I can't believe that I couldn't think of his name. Obviously, he didn't have to do a whole lot. He didn't really have any dialogue in this movie, but I thought that he was able to really convey his emotions despite not being able to speak throughout this movie, and there were some really funny moments with that, some even a little bit touching moments as well. So overall, I really liked their chemistry. I think it worked really well in here. Catherine Newton, I think, is really able to bring on a really eccentric character out of her, and I think it just really worked well in this movie. A few other things. I did enjoy the soundtrack for this movie. This movie takes place in the 80s, like 1989, I believe they say. And they didn't just use the same, like, 580 songs that they use for a lot of, like, these movies that take place back in the 70s and 80s, where it's, like, Don't Fear the Reaper, or, like, just a few other of the same choices. They use a little bit of different songs in here, and I really like it. I think they fit well for it. And also kind of going along those lines, there was also a lot of, I'm not sure if anybody noticed, but there's some subtle references to bands in this movie that I thought like maybe they were going to be going somewhere with it. I wasn't really sure. But there were some, like a lot of subtle references to certain bands in this movie that I thought was kind of interesting. I'm not sure if anybody else really caught on to that. But I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but maybe I'm just crazy, but I'm pretty sure there was a lot of like subtle references to certain bands, rock bands and whatnot in here. Another thing is, I think there is some neat little animation in here that's kind of like, it's got this Tim Burton style, kind of like Nightmare Before Christmas, that they use a little bit throughout the movie that I think is kind of interesting. There's not a whole lot of it, but when they do it, it is kind of interesting. I wish maybe they did a little bit more of that, actually. A few other things. I really like some of our side characters in this movie, particularly the mom who is, well, she's not Catherine Newton's mom in this movie, or Lisa Frankenstein's mom in this movie. She's just kind of her caretaker because she's kind of like an orphan in the movie. She doesn't have any real like parents, so she lives with one of her friends, and their parents are, I really enjoy them in this movie. Both of them have their interesting little personalities, with the mom being very preppy and whatnot. And so you got like the undead, the boyfriend or whatever, kind of messing everything up, putting worms in her food or whatever. So I really, really liked that. I enjoyed her. And then you got the dad who just, it's always that dad who, you know, he kind of probably regrets that he married his wife, and his family's always really weird, and he's just kind of stuck in the middle of all this. So I really enjoyed him as well. The friend I thought was okay. The friend of Lisa Frankenstein, thought she was all right, but the parents, really cool. And so, yeah, overall, I really had a fun time with this cast. I thought I had a really great surrounding cast, even though I'm not super familiar with all of them. Liked the soundtrack in here, liked some of the little animation parts into it. So overall, just nothing but really good things to say about this movie. One minor criticism that I do have, and it's more of a mixed thing for me, and that is I really wish that if they were as raunchy and as dark as they were in this movie, I really wish they would have just gone all out with it, because they really, like I said, pushed the boundary for that PG-13 rating. And, you know, I get it, like, there's more money to be made for a lot of horror movies if they do, you know, keep it a PG-13 movie and play it a little safe so that they can get, you know, younger audiences in. And I think that this movie is actually trying to get at the younger audiences, like teenage, like around like 15 to 20 maybe, but you know, not all of them can go see a rated R movie by themselves. So maybe that's why that they decided to just keep that PG-13 rating. But I feel like with as raunchy and as much dark humor in here as there is, I feel like they should have just gone all out, accepted the R rating, and just went for it all, really. So that's one minor criticism for me, because I think if they did go all out, it would have been even more fun than it already was for me, even more entertaining. Kind of similar to Megan from last year, where a lot of the kills had to be kind of implied and off screen, because, you know, to not get that R rating. Here, I think if this movie especially would have benefited if it didn't have to be off screen and just really, really surprised you with some of the brutality in here. But that's just kind of a minor criticism for me. I think as a PG-13 horror comedy, it works well for me. It's very, very zany. If you like weird stuff, you're going to like this movie. It's a very, very eccentric horror comedy. Probably has a little bit more raunch and comedy to it than it does the horror side of things, but I still really enjoyed it for being a PG-13 horror comedy. So overall, I really like this one. I would definitely go check it out if you're into that kind of stuff, or if you're just a horror fan in general. I think you're going to really like this. Would I rate Lisa Frankenstein out of 10? I think that I'm going to give it a nice 7.5 out of 10, and I think that there's a good chance that that rating will increase as the year continues, as I'll probably just remember the really fun stuff and the stuff that I really liked out of this movie. But for right now, 7.5 out of 10. I think it's a really solid PG-13 horror comedy. I would definitely go check it out. And that's all I got for you guys. So make sure you stay tuned for the upcoming movie reviews. And if you have any suggestions, let me know in the comment section down below. Otherwise, that's all I got. Like and subscribe, guys. And I will see you next time.